Hi, I'm John.
Hi there, good to see you. Welcome back to our series. John was in the hotspot kind of recently and
Yep.
quizzing him about his counselling. Now it's my turn.
Yep.
And we're talking about some of the things that regularly come to my counselling room over the years.
Yeah. We do a lot of these really kind of very much off the cuff, as you probably noticed. We don't sit and rehearse them. So what Lou has done is she's written a number of headings, for me to ask her about and discuss. So she's written this one, which is quite intriguing, and it's the impact of accountability on boundaries and choices. Do you care to elaborate and what you actually mean by that one? Because I know all the words.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, just first of all, let's look at in childhood the learning of safe, healthy accountability, and that is that if you do this, I ask my clients whether this model is part of their childhood, and you'd be surprised the number of people that say no. Okay, this is what you hope for if you're teaching a child the difference between right and wrong.
Okay.
That something happens, and then in a loving environment, you kind of draw attention to the fact that it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
You explain it and give them a chance to own it, say sorry, and then this is really important, that you then make sure they understand they are forgiven and that they're always loved, no matter what happens. And that's really, really important. A lot of people they get told off, period.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what happens there, if they're not forgiven, that there's a build-up of guilt and shame. So often there's a kind of a room in our lives where we kind of park that.
Yeah.
Now, it is even more toxic if it goes on in a parent. Okay? So I would just say to parents, we blow it.
Sorry, when you say it goes on in a parent, what do you mean? Do you mean?
I was just about to...
Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon.
Yeah. Well, I went into a bit of a side because I just want to say I'm a parent and I've blown it regularly.
All right, okay.
So we blow it. What is really important then is that you acknowledge before your children that you've blown it. Okay. So if you lose your temper, you kind of say, really sorry, mummy shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
And so what the child learns then is losing my temper is not acceptable. Okay. But in a dysfunctional environment, things go on. It probably happens in a drinking environment, it's very much so, where if you're not careful, it's all passed off as normal. Okay. Now, the impact of that on a child as you grow up, if you own something, a little alarm bell is built in saying this is not acceptable. Okay. If that is not wired in, what you find, and some of you will really relate to this, is that you find yourself in really dysfunctional situations and you think, and you look back and you think, it is there under my eyes. Why didn't I see what was happening?
So basically, you're talking about modelling.
Modelling. So what happens then is your boundaries get all sludgy because the alarm bell hasn't gone off. And in my counselling, we do quite a lot of going back and saying, no, this is acceptable, that wasn't acceptable. So you rewire a person to know how to take care of themselves, basically, and how to take care of their relationship. So the plotting of all of this and the impact. So what I would say if you're listening to this and you're living in a dysfunctional drinking situation, and we've done videos of this, haven't we, is don't kind of act as if it's all normal. Don't normalise it. Obviously, you've got to be a bit sensitive with little children, but I think as your children get older, a healthy conversation about what's happening and helping them break down the mass of the dysfunction is really important. Does that kind of answer my question?
Yes, it does. I mean, when I look at your model and I think about my life, I mean, I have two contrasting times to it. When I grew up, you did something wrong and you get told off and there wasn't anything else in between, that was it, know. And when I was drinking, then I never actually did anything wrong,
Quote.
Ever. You know, so, well, that's the way I saw it. I never did anything wrong because I never ever admitted.
So accountability and self, kind of what's the word, assessment just went right out the window.
Absolutely. Oh, there was plenty of accountability, but it was never mine.
No.
You know, it's everybody else's accountability. You know, it was him, how, she, how it.
And then there's the dance, isn't there, where the other person is constantly, you know, this just comes under punishing, just kind of trying to shout the accountability to the person
My
that
wife
isn't taking
seemed
it.
to have this strange impression that I was doing something wrong, you know, and I've very often had to sort of put her right. You know,
And we're laughing about this, but it's not at all funny.
I'm being facetious.
You're stuck in
because
the
yes, I look back on my past now and I sort of go, oh, did I really do all of that? You know, but you know, so I have made amends about my past quite considerably. But yes, there is that. If you don't take responsibility for your life, then it's very, very.
And I
good.
think the 12-step program is really good here because it gives you a chance to rewire, basically, to kind of look at the boundaries, to see where you've broken them, to see what is healthy, and that's enormously important.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you go through the 12 steps and you sort of break it all down, you know, the first 3 deal with drinking, the next 2 deal with yourself, and then the next 2 it's all about making amends. It's making amends to, you know, other people, but also making amends to yourself.
Taking accountability.
You know?
Yeah. This is the AA 12-step program.
Yeah.
We happen to have 12 kind of parts to our program, but we're not talking about bottled up there. We're just talking about.
No, I was talking about the
12-step
AA
program,
program. I was talking about, you know, the 12-step program, and it's a very good. It's a very good program for dealing with alcohol, you know, because it doesn't just deal with alcohol; it deals with the person, and that's what makes it good. It's a good cognitive behavioural program.
Absolutely. So with your children, you know, just make sure if they are called to account that they know that they're safe and loved and forgiven, and then the guilt then dispersed rather than is buried down inside.
Yeah.
If you have had a lot of that, all right, that will impact you if you know, I think one of the anaesthetics that a drinker has is over guilt and shame, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
And if you've had a lot of that, be careful, because you'll pick up the guilt that the drinker, because he's taking no responsibility, is pushing at you.
Yeah.
You'd be more wired to pick up that guilt than maybe someone else. So again, if you haven't had that modelled in the past, just be aware that you might not have an alarm that goes off, and so be really clear. Again, listen to this program. You don't have to take responsibility for things that are not yours. You don't have to feel guilty about somebody else messing up your life. So be aware of your past, and if you know, oh God, that's me, I never had a chance to be forgiven, I have loads of guilt and shame, then again do a bit of work on that, and make sure it doesn't bleed into your work with the drinker, because you'll have enough trouble without picking up shame from the past.
Accountability is a difficult one, because particularly for children, you know, particularly for children in an alcoholic household, because on the one hand they're getting blamed for quite a lot, you know, because the drinker is not very tolerant sometimes of the children being around, so they're getting plenty of blame. But you're on the modelling side, that is the example that's being set. You've got a drinker who's not taking any responsibility, no accountability.
Absolutely.
So there is a confusion going on there. You know, that why can he or she get away with it and I can't? You know, so talking to the children is a very, very good idea. Discussing some of these issues with them, and because it's not as if that they don't see it.
No,
of course they see it.
Do see it, and the more you can model it yourself. And again, you'll be short-tempered when the drinkers, when your partner's drunk, and it might flip over onto the children. But again, if you own it and just say, I'm feeling stressed, they will understand those steps. And if you model it with them, they will have a healthy way of dealing with accountability and forgiveness as they grow older.
Yeah.
Complicated subject, but I hope in some way this has given you some clues and helps.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was good. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye now.